Wanting to be liked is absolutely killing you. This comes up again and again and again in the people that I work with. And here's what I want to tell you. Everybody's got weird stuff. Everybody is into something that's not mainstream. Everybody has quirks. Everybody's experienced something weird and spiritual that they're hiding. But hiding that stuff that's the truth of your experience is what's making you so bland. It's what's making you not connect with people. It's what's making you not have the experience of life that you want. And we're just so petrified by not being liked by everybody. Like, this fear is literally crushing our soul. I can feel it in my heart right now as I tap into this. I see this again and again and again and again in people that I work with, this fear of wanting to please everyone, of being accepted, of being liked. But here's the thing. When you are you, when you're truly you, all of you and all of your magic and all of your weirdness, you become polarizing. And the people that are meant to like you will love you. And it's so beautiful. But we've got to have the courage to step through and not be liked by everyone. And we hear this all the time, and it sounds so simple, but it's at the core of so many things. We miss sharing the profound essence of who we are. We're too worried about being liked by other people and not worried enough about if we like ourselves. And when we start to like ourselves and see ourselves and say, no matter what, it doesn't matter if that person doesn't get it. This is who I am. This is who I am. This is who I am. And I know for me, a huge part of this has been coming from a more kind of like serious professional therapeutic background into becoming more and more spiritual and describing myself more as a healer. But you know what? It was an evolution to get there. And it was all my experiences and what was real and having these, different kind of awakenings that got there. And I was so afraid of what those people would think. And the other day I finally got an email from someone criticizing what I'm doing. And it was the greatest thing in the world, because in that moment, I realized how much I don't fucking care. And we all need more of that, to care less, to tap into the essence of who we are. And the beautiful thing about the work that I do is that I get to sit with so many people in so many different situations and hear their stories and what they believe in. And this is the thing, so many people are connected to the same stuff, but they're all hiding it because it's not mainstream. It's not what we grew up with. We grew up with this in this really fucked up world that was so obsessed with this warped understanding of what's real that we miss so much of our ability. It's like the compass inside of us to feel things, to feel energy, to feel truth, to understand that there's more to life, there's more to our experience than our physical reality. And we're so afraid of saying that. Or maybe that's specifically in my world what one of the fears is. But we all have these fears of being seen for who we truly are. But what we all want is the freedom to be who we truly are. And we think, I was really taught one of the things that we all want is connection. But I think the piece that we miss is the connection to the people who see us. And that only comes when we see ourselves. And so it's really and it's interesting because I was having this conversation with someone last night about the risk and the reward. And we think about this often in terms of success or finance, but it's personal as well. It's like if I risk putting myself out there, if I risk being who I really am, it feels like I'm risking everything. But with great risk comes great reward. So what's the reward? And we live in this beautiful time when we have the ability to find our people. It makes me laugh. There's people on the internet constantly criticizing the internet, not realizing that they're in the very communities of people that think the same as them because of the internet. We have this beautiful set of tools that allow us to connect with so many things and so many people like never before. So the beauty in that is that as we become more fully and completely ourselves, it's easier than ever for our people to find us and for us to find our people. And I think we're so concerned about being objectively right or what's objectively true that we miss the beauty and the magic of people having different opinions, different experiences. We shouldn't want everyone to be the same. We shouldn't want everyone to agree. We shouldn't want one philosophy to rule all. It's in the difference that makes us unique. It's like, imagine if the world was just one city, or just all desert, or just all ocean, or just all grass. It's the difference. It's the seasons. It's the landscapes. It's the different countries. It's the climates. It's the animals. It's all the things that are different that makes it beautiful. It's what makes it worth going places. And it's the same with people. It's the difference that makes us us. But we're so fucking afraid to be different, when different is the most beautiful thing that you are. And we grew up in this time where it was just not okay to be different. I love that the world is changing with those of us that, went to high school decades ago. It's so funny. I watch TV shows from them, like Friends. I remember loving Friends growing up, and I watch it now, and it's appalling. They make fun of everyone who's different ethnicities, different religions, different like sexual orientations. It's horrible, but that's what was coded into us. But we have a decision to make. Are we going to live with that coding our whole life and be afraid of those kids that were mean to us in school and being different? Or are we going to be who we actually are? Are we going to live the life that we actually want? And the saddest piece of this is often there's a dream inside everyone. I talk about this a lot, but it kills me, because I see people and I see the dream and the vision of who they are and the gifts, and they know, they already, it's not like, oh, what could you, they already know. I was speaking to someone yesterday. Oh yeah, I have this dream of writing a book. Why don't I? It's all these things that get in the way of, what if, I don't think I can do it. All the doubts. I'm afraid to be different, afraid to be seen, afraid to. The fear is old. The fear is from a time when our life was literally life and death, and our mind applies it to our current reality, but it's not life and death. For most of those that are watching this video, it's not life and death. Your basic needs are met. And so we've got to open our awareness to the point where we understand that we're not going to die if we're different. It feels like you are. Your mind makes you feel like that, but you're not. You're going to be fine. In fact, you might even develop some tenacity, some courage, some grit. It's always us that holds ourselves back from the next thing. It's why the work that I do is so valuable and so important, because it's never the things that we think are the problem that are holding us back. It's always something here or here. And it's usually from fear. And this has been a really interesting thing lately as well, because I've been working with a lot of people, on developing my messaging and how I talk about my business to people. And sometimes I use the word fear, and people will say, oh, like, do you want to work with people that have fear? Because I am really focusing on working with people that are already extraordinary and successful. And this is such a lie, because they think that those people don't have fear, but they do. We all are susceptible to fear and doubt. The greatest people that I know have fear. It's the relationship with fear that grows. This idea of successful people are fearless, or there's like a fearlessness that we should aspire to. It's not real. We never transcend the human experience. We never transcend guilt, shame, anger, pain, fear, all the things, doubt. We just build our relationship with them. And the idea, hi Kimberly, the idea that we should achieve this inhuman state is actually one of the biggest things that holds us back. We have all of these ideas about nice and bland and people pleasing, but we miss some of the deeper elements. I'm really direct, really blunt, and kind of like really sassy sometimes. And I sometimes worry about the experience that people have of that. But I was just in Laguna with my friend, Suzanne, and she is also very direct and a very powerful person and very sassy. And I remember I was in the car and I was asking her something and she was like, no. And I was like, oh, I love receiving this answer, because it made me realize that in that moment, I love how real she is. I love how direct she is. And what I realized too is that we feel safe when someone's that direct, because we know that it's true. I say no when I mean no. I say yes when I mean yes. There's a way that feels safe. Even if we don't care for the delivery in the moment, we know there's a feeling of trust, because we know what they're saying is true. And so many people are so afraid to say what they feel and think that they will say yes when they mean no and no when they mean yes. And then there's that subtext. Are you ever with someone and you feel that subtext and you're like, I don't know what it is, but there's something that's off. There's something that's off. And then time goes on and time goes on and time goes on. And then suddenly one day there's this blow up and they're like, well, there was that time in the car that you asked me to drive you home and I felt like it was too much and da 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 da. And it's like, but you said yes. And and then you said this and you take advantage. There's like this whole thing has blown up. We feel it coming. And then we look back and we're like, oh, I knew something was off. That's intuition. The thing that conventionally we were taught not to trust, but is more real than what our mind tells us. So one of the pieces of the journey is can you trust that in the moment, even when it's vague? Can you trust the thing that you feel is there? And so that subtext that we feel with a people pleaser who says yes when they mean no, who drives you home when they don't want to, who builds this resentment because they're giving and giving and giving and you didn't know that they were giving more than they wanted to give and then suddenly it blows up to this point. Well, we do that with ourselves. That subtext, that energy that you pick up on that feels like something's off, you do that in who you are. That's the opposite of authentic. It's creating a dishonesty in who you are. And it starts with being dishonest with yourself. It's taken me so long to break through so many of these barriers that I'm talking about. I have wanted to do creative photos forever, like for as long as I feel like I've been doing photography. And when I was a photographer, I didn't think enough of myself. I used to see these photographers that did self-portraits of like glitter and milk baths and flowers and all these things. And I just had this dream of doing it, but I was like, I can't do that. And then I became a hypnotherapist, which evolved into all these I don't even know what to call myself now. I'm just a magical fucking unicorn healer. That's what we're going with. And then it was like, well, now I'm a therapist. Now it's too serious. I could never do that, these self-portraits. And so I took lifestyle photos of myself. And people said to me more and more recently, because there's been more interest in my photography, like, what kind of photography did you used to do? And I was like, well, I used to take creative portraits. And it suddenly dawned on me, like, why don't I do this as a part of my brand? Why don't I share this? And some of you might have seen the photos that I've started sharing. It's not authentic because you've got to go out and do a photo shoot and be bold on the internet. It's authentic because it's me. Because that vision has lived inside my heart for like, I can't say a decade, but probably like 6 years. And I finally did it because I got rid of all the shit that was in the way. And for most people would probably look at that and think that it was this huge projection. For me, it was a Sunday afternoon and I went and I was literally buying hair dye at the drugstore. And I was like, maybe I should get honey and do a photo shoot. And I literally went and bought this tube of honey. And I went home and I dragged all of my lights into my shower. And I took those. And it looks like a freaking professional set because it's me. Because I know how to do that because I have this experience as a photographer and all the things. And so I literally set up the camera for self-portraits. I set the timer, got in the shower and poured honey on myself and then posed. It was just like, and I see them and I was like, that's fucking me. Like that has lived inside my soul for so long. And I finally let it out and I put it on the internet. And now there are shirtless pictures of me on the internet covered in honey being fierce. And you know what? I've never lost more followers in my life ever. It was like so many people were just, I'm out. And I've never been so celebrated either. I had literally hundreds of comments everywhere I posted that. This is what I'm talking about. Polarity. Me being nice and trying to not upset anyone and appeal to everybody. Crickets in the audience. Me being me, a bunch of people are like, I'm out. And then the people that are and that was the thing too, I went through and every single person that was like, yes, it was like, you are my person. Like, I love this person and they love me and it was perfect. And you know what? There were also a lot of people who were maybe a little more conservative who I feel like wouldn't like that as much, who loved it. And I loved that. I was like, you like conservative mom that's like this kind of like you love this and people loved it. And so it's like we pre-reject ourselves. In my mind, it's like I want to reject myself from some of the people who are actually going to love me. So in my mind, it feels like, well, the divide is going to be like this between people who hate me and love me if I'm truly me. But actually, it's different. It's different than I expect. Actually, less people didn't like me, and people that I didn't even think loved it. And then we've got to think about embodiment. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. It's like people can talk about self-love all they want, but we've all been this. I remember this is my experience when I was much younger with therapy. Was like going to have therapy from people who I immediately didn't respect because of things that they told me about themselves that I was like, this is not a quality that I aspire to. I feel like that's a story for another day. But, I can go and be therapized, coached, directed, whatever, by self-love, by this human being that like is so repressed and has a lot of work to do. Or do I want to go and learn about from self-love from the person that's like the embodiment of self-love? And some people would say, well, no, you need to be a professional. You need a diploma. You need to have this thing. You need to have the glasses and you need to have the things on the wall. That's great. I can tell you from experience, I've been in that world and I've been in this other world that's just like no holds barred. And the people in this world are who I want to be like. I see magic. I see money being made. I see people who are self-expressed. I feel the truth of who they are in the circumstances. And they feel more healed, more real, more loving, more all the things. And that's not to say that there's not someone that's super professional that's not actually living their authenticity and their uniqueness, and that's not who they truly are. And that's perfect. But we can feel the difference. There's a lesson in there too about binaries, about not saying, well, this means this and that means that. It's just that I know that I fit over here, so I'm going to be over here. And I also know from experience there's a whole lot of garbage over there that I don't want. I feel like we're waking up. It's this incredible time. The conversation about frequency and energy is becoming so mainstream. One of my, I guess has become like a favorite artist who's like an OnlyFans creator who started making his own music and just like blew up and just so cool. Dropped this song called Money that's literally tuned to the frequency, like the frequency of abundance, and is like, there's a mainstream song that's about manifesting and the quantum field and money. And it's like, this is so freaking cool. We live in such a cool time. In the era of information overload, one of our biggest things is to come back to that, what we feel, what we know. Our bodies have this wisdom and intelligence in them to feel, to sense truth, to tap into knowing, to feel someone's energies. It's like, you don't need to read someone's facial expressions and their body language to know that they're lying. You just feel it. We've got to get better at trusting what we feel, We've been fed so much stuff that teaches us to look outside of ourselves for truth when we've got the biggest truth detector right here. I think myself, as do many people, the first thing for this with me was with the medical industry. It's so funny to think that I was like this once upon a time because I'm so different now. But I remember that I had this sinus infection and I was young. I was like 26 and I had this terrible sinus infection that wouldn't go away. And I kept going to the doctor and they kept putting me on more and more antibiotics. And it got to this point, I was taking like 3 of these horse pill antibiotics per day. And I was like having all these like weird chronic fatigue type syndrome, like things as well, probably because I had this chronic infection. And it just wasn't getting better. And every time I went, the answer was just to prescribe more antibiotics. And I could tell that it wasn't good for my body because I felt awful. And the idea of holistic and natural healing then to me was just like so woo-woo. I was like, this is a bunch of nonsense, like tree hugging hippies, like whatever. And I went to my first naturopath and I remember in the going to the doctor, there had been so many things that I had been trying to tell them that they had just ignored. And I remember sitting with her and she just listened to everything I had to say. And there's this and this and this and this. And I remember just feeling so seen and so heard. And then her explaining to me what she thought was going on and giving me these like weird tincture and some herbs and supplements and I think some like dietary changes. And I remember just like feeling like this is just this is okay, whatever. And I stopped taking the antibiotics and I went home and I started taking these herbs. And within like no time at all, I felt better. And it really started this journey of learning about food sensitivities and kind of taking I guess wellness first approach to my health. Now I'm talking about physical health here, but I feel like this applies to so many things like mental health. Like I can't even, there's so many things where it's like we've been taught that this is the way and this person has all of the answers when they actually don't. And I'm not, I'm not poo-pooing Western medicine, because if you get a life-threatening infection or you break your arm or you're having surgery or you're having a baby, then you will thank your lucky stars that we have hospitals and antibiotics. But it's not the whole picture and it's not the whole story for everything. And so I think facilitating within us this open-mindedness where we allow ourselves to trust our experience, to trust what we feel and not just what we're told. I can't tell you how many people that I've met that are like either physically ill or mentally ill. And I'm trying to talk to them about something and they're literally defending the thing that's keeping them sick because they're so brainwashed. Like my aunt and uncle have bought so into just like the medical mainstream, and they both have diabetes, and the idea that they could, do anything in lifestyle changes was just so like they just wouldn't accept it. And my aunt ended up dying, and it was really, really, really fucking sad. I see this with people as well who have, they've like bought into this idea that there's nothing that they can do about their mental health, and they defend the very thoughts and perspectives and things that are keeping them sick. The idea that sunshine and exercise and reframing what you say could have a difference, it's like that's the biggest bunch of BS. And it's the saddest thing in the world. It's so sad. You start to look at like what's going on in the world, and you see, well, there's these people that have bought into this one way of thinking, and what's the experience of life that they're having. There's these people that are bought into this other way of thinking, what's the experience of life that they're having. I don't know about you, but it's what I find is people that are open-minded, that are more connected to a spiritual practice, joy, gratitude, love, connection to being who they are. They tend to be a lot happier. And I think we've got to get clear about what we really want, because we've been taught to chase a lot of carrots, and you can spend your life chasing a carrot that's not actually the thing that you want. And what most of us want is to feel free and to be supported in all the ways in that freedom, to be who we are, freedom of self-expression. And I used to think that it was love and connection, but I actually think that the deepest desire there is more to be seen. I think the love that we really want comes when we're truly seen. So I'll give you examples of not the right thing in this. So I think what we actually want is freedom, but we tell ourselves that we want money, and we chase after money in a way that destroys the freedom that we're looking for. That's a way that you mess it up. I think that we want love, but we find love in the way that we're not seen and messes up our authenticity. So in this pursuit of love, we mess up the thing that we actually want. And so this is where getting really clear. If I can understand that what I actually desire is freedom, and that money is a portal to freedom, then I can hold the relationship with money in the place and space that it makes sense. If I understand that I want love because I want to be seen and I want to be celebrated in who I am with someone and celebrate who they are, then I don't lose who I am in the pursuit of love. And so then it becomes very clear. I have to see myself first. And the self-love I'm looking for comes from the seeing myself. And then as I see myself and I allow myself to love myself, I become a match, an energetic match, like a lighthouse that lights up in the universe for someone that can see me. And then we match. And then I see them and they see me. And the love comes because it's built in the truth of who we are. It's built in the seeing of the person in the depths of their soul. That's what we actually want. We don't just want the love as a Band-Aid. We think that we do, and then we're in the relationship 3 years later and we're like, so see yourself, be yourself. because there's only one you. You are this beautiful uniqueness. You are one singular expression in all the universe. There's only one you. You're the only you that's ever been and the only you that will ever be. And the saddest thing of all, if you never let yourself be, if you try to be like everybody else and never let your unique essence shine. And all of the fears, all of the conformity, all of the things that get in the way of being who you are, they're worth finding the courage to push through, because on the other side of it is all the good stuff that's a match for, and hard stuff too, but it's still worth getting over. It's still worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it. It'll be the best thing that you ever do, is to stop apologizing for who you are and start seeing yourself and celebrating it. All of it, the best of you, the worst of you, the genius in you, the drama of you, all of it. All of you is good. So look in the mirror and see it. Because when you start to see it and you get to the point where people leave and you don't care, and the people that you were afraid of being upset with you write you the email and your response is, fuck you, I don't care. Not from a wounded place, from a like, I actually don't care. I've been so afraid of this, but I actually don't care. Oof, I feel this in my body. It's like freedom. It's like wings. So thank you for joining me today. My name is Michael Edwards, and I help people access even greater levels of human potential. If you are watching live, then drop me a comment. If you're watching the replay, leave a comment and let me know you are here. And I am sending you so much love, and bye for now.